are the only people who don't feel comfortable solely fighting for black issues. Whenever you see black people fighting for a movement, they often will group other people into it that are considered people of color, Asians, LGBTQ, Latinos, but you never hear these other group of people having the same passion when black issues arise.
They don't.
No, they don't.
They don't. Black and brown. Every black. Why you can't just say black? Because we have been bullied into feeling uncomfortable, only articulating our own issues. Black people are the only people who don't feel comfortable just fighting for black issues. Jews only fight for Jews. Latinos only fight for Latinos. Arabs only fight for Arabs. Mexicans only fight for Mexicans. Black people fight for everybody. And here's the Achilles heel of that mindset. If you're going to make everybody else's issue as important as your own, why should we care about your issue? By bringing them in, you automatically demote the seriousness of your issues. Multiculturalism was a trap the whole time. And one of the reasons I say multiculturalism was a trap the whole time, did you know Mexicans were once legally considered white in this country? Did you know East Indians were once legally considered white in this country? Did you know the Japanese sued in court to be white in this country, but they lost? Did you know Arabs are considered white right now in this country? Look at this. People of color? Harold, how is this a genuine people of color when every group in this people of color group used to be considered white and wish they could again be considered white? So why would you unite with them? They're using our self-hate and our love of outsiders to trap us into a corner where we can't crawl out of.
I don't like him because he's black.
Are you even serious right now?
You know, I'm a minority, but I got a problem.
What is it about black people that you don't like?
You know, based on the experience and the people I've worked with, where I come from, I'm sick and tired of people thinking, specifically I am mentioning black people, thinking we owe them something. You know, Polynesians don't have a BET. We don't get all pissed off when we don't have an NAACP that comes and...
They started pushing multiculturalism in the 1970s and the 1980s as a response to the African-centered approach to the study of history, culture, and civilization. I'm going to say it again. Multiculturalism was put out by the white power structure to dismiss and distract away from African-centered approach to history, culture, and civilization. When our grandmaster teachers gave birth to the black knowledge and black book explosion of the 1960s through the 1990s, when our scholars gave birth to the black book and black information explosion from the 1960s to the 1990s, that's when the white power structure stepped up and said, wait. We can't have no African-centered approach to spirituality. We can't have no African-centered approach to culture. We can't have no African-centered approach to civilization. So racism put multiculturalism out to undermine the African genesis of humanity. I said the white power structure put multiculturalism out to take away from the African genesis of civilization. I need you to understand, overstand, and understand me. Nobody practices multiculturalism except African people. Nobody practices multiculturalism except African people. Nobody practices multiculturalism except African people. Nobody practices it. Multiculturalism is a psychological weapon to brainwash black people into thinking the world cares about them as much as they care about themselves. Multiculturalism is a psychological technique used against politically uneducated black people to seduce you into thinking that the world cares as much about you as they care about everybody else. That's what multiculturalism is. If you disagree, show me the black presence in the Chinese neighborhood. Show me the black presence in the Chinese economy. Show me the black presence in the European Jewish community. Show me the black presence in the Arab community. Show me the black participation in the Anglo-Saxon community. Multiculturalism is a joke. And we're going to talk about the negative effects of multiculturalism, the social costs of multiculturalism against black people, the financial costs of multiculturalism against black people, the intellectual and cultural costs of multiculturalism against black people, the emotional costs of multiculturalism against black people, and the political costs of multiculturalism against black people. The snow bunny crisis is a form of multiculturalism. How is that helping us? The snow bunny crisis is a form of multiculturalism. How is that helping African people? The snow bunny crisis is a form of multiculturalism. How is that helping African people? Black men dating and marrying out the race. Black women dating and marrying out the race. How does the snow bunny crisis benefit black people? An interracial relationship is a multicultural relationship. An interracial relationship is a multicultural relationship. When I see black men go to Africa and become kings in Africa, that's multiculturalism. When you see a white man go to Africa, become a king, a traditional ruler in Africa. When you see a white man go to Africa and marry an African woman and become a chief of a village, you see white people go to Africa and get initiated into our sacred spiritual traditions. And now the white man is a priest of Ifa, a priest of Voodoo, a priest of Dogon, a priest of Akan. That is blasphemy against the ancestors. That is blasphemy against the ancestors. That is blasphemy against the ancestors. Multiculturalism is a trap. Multiculturalism is a trap. Multiculturalism is a trap. Let's compare all the white men who go to Africa and become kings. Let's compare all the white men who go to Africa and become kings. Let's compare all the whites who get initiated into African sacred spiritual traditions. Let's compare the white priests and priestesses of African religion to what Meghan Markle went through in the Queen's palace. Meghan Markle, mixed race African woman, goes and marries Prince Harry. She thinks she's going to be royalty. She marries Prince Harry. She thinks she's going to be royalty. And the whole world tells her, you're not royalty. Your son is not royalty. You have no claims whatsoever to the British throne by way of your African blood. Look at how the British dealt with multiculturalism in the family, and look at how African people deal with multiculturalism in the family. Look at how the Queen of England dealt with Meghan Markle, and look at how the kings of Africa deal with white folks who want to become part of the royal family. If you are not of the bloodline, you cannot join the royal family. If you are not of the bloodline, you cannot join the royal family. Let me ask you a question. When Meghan Markle and her son were denied their claim on the British throne, who condemned the Queen of England for saying that? Who condemned the royal family of Britain? Why wasn't the Queen called a racist? Why wasn't the Queen called an imperialist? Why was it perfectly okay with the white world that Meghan Markle and her son were disowned by the royal family of Britain? Why did nobody protest on Meghan Markle and her son's behalf? Because multiculturalism is a game they run on black folks. Nobody else practices it. And the black church has really hurt African people because the black church has deified multiculturalism. The black church has deified multiculturalism. The black church has deified multiculturalism. What do I mean when I say the black church has deified multiculturalism? The African American masjid and the African American church. The African American masjid, the African American church, the African American kingdom's hall, the African American kingdom's hall, the African American masjid, and the African American church has brainwashed black people into thinking God wants you to be a multiculturalist. That's right. Black religion has brainwashed the black community into believing God wants you to be a multiculturalist. He wants you to be a colorblind multiculturalist. But when you study the Bible, for those of you who follow the Abrahamic narrative, if you study the Bible, God was a nationalist. God was not an integrationist. Over and over and over again in the Bible, certain kingdoms were told not to mix their seed with other kingdoms. Over and over and over again in the Bible, certain kingdoms were told not to mix their seed with other kingdoms. So how can you claim that God was a colorblind multiculturalist when your holy book clearly tells certain kingdoms, especially those who were blessed by God, not to mix their seed?